Hello and welcome to MBS Academy's show Real Lives. And today we're talking to Cynthia Demore, and she's a lady that met 300 men, dated 300 men, should I say, in 11 months. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you today, Cynthia. Can't wait to hear your story.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm excited to be here.
So tell me, how did you start? What made you think, oh, I'm going to date 300 men in a short space of time, or was that not a thought and it just happened? And where was the beginnings of all this?
So it actually wasn't a goal to meet that many men. It was more, I was tired of being the one woman. You know, I went out with my girls and they always got the dates and I was the plus one. And it got old, really old.
Right.
And so I decided I wanted to meet the man I would marry within a year.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay.
So
that was the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this was back in which year?
1991.
So that was before internet dating.
It was the dark ages.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound that long ago, but yes, very, very different. So how was it all done?
Well, so what I did is, I made a list of what I was looking for. And I've always been good at shopping and thought, well, I'm going to go shopping for a man.
Right.
Who would fit in my life, because I was tired of trying to be good for the guy to be picked.
Right.
And I came up with 46 things that I wanted. And
how many? 46.
46. Yeah, just 46.
Okay. Just.
Yeah. I get my clients up to 120, 130 things.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Well,
okay.
The more you know what you're looking for, the easier it is to find it, right?
Yeah. So, but how much detail do you go into to get to that many?
Well, it depends upon what we're looking for. Like for me with 46, I had down to profession.
Yeah.
And I had things like the Boy Scout values. I want loyalty, trustworthy, things like that. With going to higher numbers, it's, how do they like to spend their time? How do they like to party? How do they, even what kind of sex do you want to have with them? Are you adventurous, conservative? Are you, do you like this flavor or that flavor? And just really focusing on the life that you want to have, because as successful women, we can pay our own rent, right? We don't need a man to pay our bills. And so that means that the old way was that the man was the provider, right? Ooh, got to go get a wallet. Where now, since you don't need that, you can say, oh, I want a man who's going to be a nice accessory in my life.
Right.
And it's a very different feel around going out and meeting men.
Yeah, absolutely. So you decided to spend a year to find your man.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you start?
Well, in 1991, the hot thing to do was classified ads.
Mm-hmm.
Those love ads. And the ones in our area had this really cool new technology. It was this thing called voicemail.
Oh, gosh.
I know.
New, wonderful technology.
You could leave a message and get it instead of having to write letters. So I started there, and I met my first 100 men that way. And it was, I'd always been the wing woman. So it was like, oh, I'm getting all these dates. I like this. And I would go out with anybody who would ask me practically.
Yes.
And then I realized that's a mistake.
Yes.
So the shopping, this fine tuning that we're talking about was something that I learned in the process. I started with the 46, but then I started realizing, and I started giving men a psychic score.
Oh, okay.
And you can still do that. Like gut reaction, scale of 1 to 10, where's he at? And if he wasn't at 8 or higher, I just politely declined.
Okay.
So
did you sort of, in the process, I think you just said that you got to 46 and then you suddenly realized that you had to do something different?
46 items on my list.
Right.
I met 100 men and I realized it was just consuming me. So I shifted gears and I decided to meet men in person. And once you've met 100 men, you're a lot more juicy than you were when you thought a date was a miracle.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
so I just started going out and being open to meeting people, and I'd
Mm.
go to the grocery store, I'd wherever I went, I would meet men and they'd be asking me out. And so that was the next 200.
Right. What was that sort of suddenly like a switch went on in your brain when you suddenly realised that you were doing normal everyday things and people were, men were asking you out? Did you consciously become aware of a change in the way that you were behaving, or the way that you were presenting yourself, or the things you were asking?
I think it's a couple things. I think that in the beginning, like I said, a date was a miracle. You know,
Mm.
my girlfriend's getting it. So when I realized how many men are out there who want an amazing woman like me, um, then all of a sudden you sort of get like it doesn't matter.
Mm.
You can be more playful. And
Right.
so I was also more open to it. So a lot of times, like with my clients now, they don't even see men when they'll say, "Where do I meet men?" And I'm like, "Where do you go in life? There's half the population's men." But because
Mm.
they're so focused on certain things, they don't see all the people around them.
Mm.
Do things like say hello to people. Um, and if they
Very simple thing, but
yeah,
yes. Mm.
men are so they want to they want to feel comfortable approaching because they think by the time they're dating they've been rejected for decades, really, in that so many ways.
Mm.
And so giving a green light, I just like let my happiness come forward, and just enjoyed the world and the world enjoyed me.
So do you think it was a confidence thing with
Oh
yourself? Yeah,
gosh, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
once you start, there's a phases you go through, and the first phase is that, oh my gosh, I can actually do this, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this and be choosy, and
Mm,
then you get really into looking to see who you want to meet.
mm, mm. So after the first 100 men, you then started just meeting people in everyday life, so you didn't have to trawl through classified ads and leave voicemails.
No.
But 300 men in 11 months,
hmm
was that like one a day?
Well, I was teaching eighth grade at the time and had lots of homework at night, so I would often do 4 or 5 dates on a weekend
Okay.
and set them up. I found in the beginning I would do whatever they wanted. "Oh, you wanna take me to dinner? Okay." "Oh my gosh, how exciting." And
Yes.
then I realized it sucks to be in a hour dinner, 2-hour dinner with someone that walking in that they're just not for you,
Yeah, that
right?
first initial. I mean, how long do you think it takes for you to actually be in the company of somebody before you go, you're not for me?
It depends. If they smell, you can notice right
Yes,
away,
that's true.
right?
Yes.
Or maybe they say something that triggers for you, like, oh, like for me, I'm a dog person. And in my
Mm.
life, I always want to have dogs. And I'm allergic to cats. So if somebody came up and they had cat hair on their sweater or something and would talk about, their kitty, they were a next.
Yeah.
If he would kill his cat to date me, it might be an ego boost, but I could never date a cat killer,
Well, yeah, that's the downside, I suppose.
right? So
Yeah.
the 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 nice thing and the empowering thing is I got really into a space where I come as is, like, this is who I am,
Mm.
when you gotta adore the whole package, and he's the same way.
Yeah.
So, from that standpoint, it's really quite freeing,
Mm.
because you can if he doesn't like you, it's just a next. It's not personal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I expect that's one of the things to get over, isn't it? Is the rejection. To recognise that it's not a rejection, it's just a mismatch. It's just
Mhm.
not the right person. It's not, as you say, it's not personal.
Mm-mm. You could look like his ex and not know it,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And
Yes.
and what we tend to do is make up all these stories about, "Oh, what's wrong with me? Why didn't he want me? I've been on a diet and I lost 2.5 pounds. He should have seen that. What's wrong?" And blah, 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 blah. When in reality, you don't know what's going on in him.
No.
And if you're a mismatch for him or he can't see how fabulous you are, he's a next. It's
Yeah.
not personal.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you manage for 4 or 5 dates on the weekend? Did you ever go and meet somebody and bump into the person that you'd met the weekend before, or?
You know what I did is I decided I would do half-hour first dates. So
Right.
I didn't have to be committed forever. And I found one of those parking lots where there's multiple restaurants in the same parking lot. And I would move, from restaurant to restaurant, like on the hour, and do a circuit.
Bit like speed dating.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, the beginnings of. Because I
yes.
don't think speed dating was around in 1991 either, was it?
I don't. They
Yeah.
did have singles night at the grocery store. I do that. And that was my girlfriend and I went, and it was just so hilarious because people were so, desperate and, hey, can I feel your melons? It's like, oh,
Oh dear.
next.
Yeah, next.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, how did you meet number 301?
So I was involved in an organization that had a state convention coming up. And I actually was president of the local chapter and was going with another gal and had a little bit of a crush on her brother who was also coming with us. And so we went to that, and they played a first timers game, like, to go get signatures or give people an excuse to network. And I walked in the hallway of this hotel, and this weirdo walked up to me, and he had like wackadoodle hair. And he walks up, he's like, "Oh, will you sign my petition?" I'm like, "Oh my God." You know, maybe a little bit of a snob here, combed hair seems like a nice feature. So I signed it and got rid of him. And I didn't know he had a convertible and had just forgotten to come when he came in. But
Right.
so that night, the first night, I was all over this man Carl, and we had just like circled each other. We weren't really dating. I thought this is the night. I had a great time, and I spent his sister and I shared a room. And then the next day, it was like, okay, this is the night I'm going to get a kiss from Carl. I've known him for a couple months. It's a good time. And so we go to the big awards party at the end of the second day, and this woman walks up in a tight blue dress, and Carl went off with her.
All right.
I'm at
Yeah.
this convention. Everybody here is a local community leader. And I've wasted all this time. And he just, what? So I was standing there in a bit of shock. And this guy walks up, and he looked like he walked out of the pages of GQ. Hot.
Okay.
And he walks up, he says, "Thank you for signing my petition." And that was my now husband, James.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
That's a really interesting little story from the point of view that when you first met him, you made a total assumption based on one feature of his appearance.
yes.
And without really knowing the facts behind it, such
Right.
as it was windswept because he'd been driving around with the roof down.
Right.
And I think that's quite a good lesson, that we shouldn't always just make instant judgments and judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know what's going on behind with somebody's life, what's behind the bit that you can see.
And messy hair, seriously. I was glad he had hair,
Well, yes. Absolutely. What were your friends and family, what were their views on you taking this road, this journey towards finding Mr. Right?
My girlfriend, who was I was often her wing woman, her first thing was, "Why would you start this before you lose 20 pounds?"
Right.
I'm like, okay, next.
Yeah.
They thought I was nuts. Like, why do you
Mm.
need all these men? You just need one. Why do you keep dating them? And I kept saying, because I want my perfect partner. I've got a shopping list. I'm shopping.
I think the difference is you want the one, not just anyone.
Well, and you know what? I could have been happy. He just needed to get an A- on my list. It could have been a couple of different people. I wasn't worried about the one. I wanted one who fit this space,
Yeah.
a good match for me. James had 42 out of 46 things on my list.
Ah, excellent.
Yeah, it took it took a while to find out, but yeah,
I
40.
was going to say, did you tell him? Did you sort of sit down and say, this is my list of 46 things and you meet 42 of them?
Well, eventually he found out. I have yet to show him the list. When I was dating him or dating anybody, I never wanted to disclose the list because
Mm,
it creates opportunity for a player to take in, or step up.
absolutely. Bit of manipulation going on.
Yes. Now he did know that any place I go, men would come up and run up to meet me. And
Right.
so that was interesting because when we were dating, like I remember one day we got in a little debate and I decided to go shopping, just leave a little bit to get some fresh air. And I came back through three numbers and he's like, okay, how many? I'm like, 30. So even now, and we've been married for what, 27 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I'll go because I speak all over the country or have been. And I'll call James and say, guess what? I got asked out on a date. And his response is always, well, you can't blame a guy for having great taste.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
That's the answer you need, though, isn't it?
absolutely.
Forget jealousy. If you've got to have trust in a relationship, and obviously you've got that.
Yes.
So that is the perfect answer for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So this led you to your what you're doing now, your career. Is that right? Because you are the coach and founder of the Delicious Dating Academy.
yes.
Tell me all about that.
So yes, this did lead to it. People want to know how the heck did I get all the dates, and they didn't.
Mm,
So we started teaching classes. Um, I just recently launched the Delicious Dating Academy to take it all online. So now I can work with people from all over, and it's a combination of online workshops, live Q&As, an exciting Facebook group where we support, but it's all women coming together saying, I'm not going to date like traditional dating where,
mm-hmm.
the man's in charge and woman's down here and what he says goes and I have to be worthy, where it's more like we're partners, 40-60-60-40.
Yeah,
So it's very almost revolutionary. Uh,
absolutely. It
but
sounds it.
it works like magic.
Mm, mm. How long have you been running the academy?
The academy is fairly new. It's like about 2 years in the works, but I've been teaching classes since 1993.
Okay.
And what happened was back then, there's like this many personal development books, right? Nobody
Mm,
talked pre-internet. Nobody talked about dating. I can't talk about how it's hard to meet men or anything. And I was working with men and women at the time. So I taught classes for about 2 years and just I could get on radio and stuff all over the country, and yet I had to have people in person to make money. And so
yeah.
I shifted that into leadership development. And so I still taught single stuff on the side periodically and did leadership development and then picked up the dating stuff with just women about 8 years ago. And so just hitting it hard now. So, now more than ever with women realizing that they have choice and
Yes.
freedom.
Mm, empowering.
Hmm.
Mm. So, how many Delicious Dating Academy weddings have you attended?
Well, I just actually did one virtually a couple of weeks ago. The lady, she had 130 things on her list, and she got 127.
Wow.
And yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's a fascinating concept. I'm really interested in, say, the idea um, that you actually take time to think about it
Hmm.
and to create a plan and decide what it is that you want. I mean, because you're right about comparing it with shopping. If you're going to do a big purchase like a house, a car, you know what you want before you go and buy, and you go and you look around and you test drive before you make a decision. When you think that you're going to hopefully partner with somebody for life, then it actually makes sense to have a plan, to have a list, to actually not necessarily a list that you're sort of comparing them to, but a list of things that you want, so that you know what you're about, and you know what you're looking for.
Them to. I used to grade them all the time. I was, former teacher at my
Mhm.
place at the time. So I'm also, I have a marketing degree. So I was like really curious about what variables made a difference and all that.
Mm,
So you are really comparing them, but the comparison's not like what my grandma taught me. My grandma taught me um, it's easier to love them rich than richer, and tall, dark, and handsome gets bonus points. And that
mm.
was my list back then.
Yeah,
And the idea,
yeah,
and we told women, don't be picky. Don't be so picky.
yeah.
You'd be in a relationship if you weren't so picky. And it's like,
Mm.
yeah, you'd be in a relationship. It's just, also a fast track to misery.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When you first people come to you and you first ask them the question, I presume you sort of say, "Can you make a list?" Do women sit there and go, "I have no idea what to put on the list,"
Yes.
or do women sort of quite easily go, "Oh yeah," and come up with sort of 50 to 100 things quite easily, or is it something that takes a little while?
It takes work, and it's actually not
Yeah,
the first thing we work on.
right.
There's blocks to love, and there's just really building them up as it's okay to be a chooser. That
Mm,
comes first. But yeah, this list is really hard because we are taught that to get a man, you have to be what a man wants. Look at the
mm,
magazines, how to get a second date. And women will come in just filled with shame. I can't get a second date. I can't even get a first date. And it's like, why would you want a second date with a man you don't want to date?
yes.
Right? Because we're also told to give men 3 tries.
Mm,
Right?
yes.
He was nervous, and it's like, well, if he can't keep up with me on the first date, why would he keep up with me on the third? And
Mm,
then that whole thing with women, because we're so loving, to be very stereotypical, that if we go out a few times, we will find ourselves raising a man's score. So if we originally thought, oh, he's like a 5 and I don't really like him, but I'll try and see if it's better, we start liking him more and making up stories about why we like him. Men, you're a 5, you're a 5.
mm. And we also make up stories about why they don't like us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
probably the bigger one. Why? Because, as you say, it's this feeling of rejection rather than a misfit, and we just move on and find one that does fit. It's like, oh well, oh, I must have the wrong color hair, or
Mhm.
I wore the wrong dress, or oh, I shouldn't have said that sentence. So immediately you're watching what you're saying, wearing, doing, and almost walking on eggshells
Mhm.
in a hope of being liked.
Right. And so we dim our lights and we go out and they're not feeling really confident because we've had some failures. And then we
Mm,
go out into the dating market not feeling good. And we attract men who like women who don't feel good about themselves.
yes,
And
yes,
so then that relationship becomes one of he likes you miserable.
yes,
It,
absolutely.
it's,
Mm,
it's just a really vicious cycle.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, it's fascinating.
Mhm.
So, how do women get onto your courses? How do they find out about the academy?
If they go to cynthiaoflove.com, that's my name in English because Damore is of love.
Yes.
A lot of people can't spell Damore. So cynthiaoflove.com, and all the
Okay.
information is right there.
All right. And what we'll do is we'll put links um, underneath the video and the podcast so that people can just click on links and make contact with you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
That's absolutely fantastic. If you could give just one piece of advice to somebody who's listening to this today, what would you say to them about dating?
I would really encourage them to um, step into being a love shopper. Get choosy, own how wonderful you are, and that it's really okay for you to find a man who fits into your world rather than having to sell yourself short to fit into someone else's.
Mm, that's really good advice.
Mhm.
Yeah. And to join your academy, if they really want to find out how to do it and to create a successful relationship like you've obviously have.
Absolutely. And we go fast
Yeah.
when you do it in group and you get into because we into how to talk, how to have conversations, how to talk to people you don't know, how to flirt without leading with sexiness. Yeah, because when we
Right.
we're taught to like show her, here's the girl, look at me, I'm trying to do something.
I mean, even the word alone suggests that it's slightly sexual, doesn't it?
Right? And then we get upset when a guy wants to go on a first date and, hey, I bought you coffee, let's go to bed. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's you get
Yeah.
what you advertise. So
Yeah.
it's just real fun to take control and take that empowerment for women and date that way.
Excellent. Excellent. I think it's a great topic, and I love the idea of the academy. Thank you so much for telling us about it today. And I'll certainly be looking it up.
Ah, fantastic, Jackie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you've really enjoyed this show, then please log in and watch the next one soon. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like. Thank you very much, Cynthia.
Thanks, Jackie.